Editor's note. I discovered the following survivor testimony while conducting research at the Genocide Archive of Rwanda, Kigali. I have translated it from the original, Kinyarwanda. The names have been changed and I have added translations of common terms and acronyms. I tore a strip of cloth off my shirt and I wrapped it around my sister's eyes. Can you see anything? I asked. No, how come I can't look? We're gonna play a game. Keep your eyes closed until I tell you, not even a peek. If you can do that until we get onto the path home, you win. I grabbed her by the hand and I led her forward. She made hesitant, shuffling steps. I brought her to the top of the hill that overlooked the church. She stumbled on a root and the noise scattered a wake of surprised vultures. Directly below us, lit by the bright midday sun, was a sea of rotting bodies. There were hundreds of corpses, all left in the brutal positions of their violent deaths. Many had sharp, horizontal cut marks across their faces and bodies, while others had cracked skulls and broken bones. The front doorway of the church was packed with an overflow of bodies that spilled out into the courtyard. We inched our way through the field of dead. I tried my best not to look at their faces or at their injuries, but there were so many dead that I had to look at them to keep my footing. Eric, what's that smell? She asked. It's so awful, it makes me feel sick. There's a pile of dead cows, I said. I think somebody slaughtered them and then they forgot about them here. Keep your blindfold on, we're almost home. We kept walking until I found the dusty road that led us home. I was only too happy to put the church behind us. You won. I took off Sonia's blindfold. I know, she replied with a confident smile. I always win your games. We followed the path and half an hour later, we were in our front yard. We went inside and we checked every room, but the house was empty. Eric, where's Dad? My sister asked. I don't know, he's probably at another meeting. Our father was an important man. He was the burgomaster, the mayor of the surrounding area, and had many responsibilities. He had had a lot of meetings lately, especially in the days after somebody shot down the president's plane. Mom said that Dad was a part of a group called Hoodoo Power. He spent a lot of time talking with soldiers and police and organizing the training of the youth militia. Okay, then where's Mom? I don't know, I said. Probably with Dad. I knew this to be a lie. The last time I saw Mom, she said she was headed for the church. She said that we should meet her there and that we would be safe there. We were always safe at the church, she reminded me, and the current troubles were no different. I tried not to think about it, but I assumed that she was a part of the massacre that we had passed through earlier. I remember clearly the very last thing that she said to me. Eric, take care of your sister, and do not trust your father. Since Dad was a politician, he had party connections, giving us a pretty nice house. We had a generator and plumbing, many rooms and metal sheeting on our roof. Our home was built near the top of a hill which allowed us to see a great distance. Looking out the front window, I couldn't spot a single person. I could see plumes of smoke coming from the dozen homes scattered across the valley and surrounding hills. I heard the rat-a-tat-tat of a machine gun and I ducked, but I was too far away to be a real threat. What should we do now? My sister asked. Let's wait until somebody comes home, I said. I didn't say who that someone would be. I knew that if Mom was somewhere back at the church, then the only person who would come home was Dad. I had to remember what Mom said. I didn't know what he was capable of. And so we waited. A week went by and no one came to our home. We had enough supplies to last us for quite a while. We had dried food and stuff in cans. and there were cassava and bananas outside, not to mention the cows and our one goat. Our only source of outside information came from the RTLM, the Radio Television Libre de Mil Colones. The news was seldom comforting. It repeatedly reminded us that the enemy was on the outskirts, poised to attack, and that soon they were going to take power and kill us all. The announcer said, "We are going through difficult times, through a war imposed by the RPF. Those stubborn, proud, and contemptuous Nkotani." "Who are the Nkotani?" my sister asked. "They are the Tutsi army in the north," I said. "Are they going to hurt us?" "No, of course not." I messed up her hair. "We are safe here." Mom said that she was a Tutsi, but that Dad was a Hutu. So what are we? I looked at the family photo of the four of us. My mom and I were both taller than my dad, and Sonia, despite her age, was rapidly approaching his height. "We are Tutsi," I said. "Now no more questions. Go play in your room while I make supper." Later that evening, I felt a sudden sharp pain in my skull. I had to sit down to stop from falling over. I felt my sister grab my arm and whisper, "Eric, there's a Mzungu in the kitchen." We both tiptoed up to the kitchen door and peeked our heads inside. In the evening twilight, it was hard to make out all the details. I could see that he was facing away from us and that he wore a khaki camouflage uniform and a blue helmet. I could see the letters UNAMIR on his back, but I didn't know what they meant. His uniform looked dirty and bloodstained, and covered in slash marks from a long blade. I noticed vicious wounds along his ankles, like somebody had hacked away at his Achilles tendon. "Sonia, hide," I whispered, and she took off to her room. I waited till she was away. "Hello?" I called, ready to bolt if the man so much as moved. But he didn't move. He stood completely still. "Hello?" I said again. "What are you doing here?" Still nothing. He was like a statue or a corpse. I didn't see him breathe. "My dad is on his way home," I said with as much authority as I could muster. "He's the burgomaster and he won't like you snooping around here." Still no reaction. I heard Sonia whisper behind me, "Tell them to go away." I turned around and I saw she had clutched a teddy bear to her chest. "Sonia, get away from here." When I turned back, the man was gone. I checked the adjoining rooms and I looked out of the windows, but he was nowhere to be seen. I called for Sonia and I found her in her room, covering under her bed. "I think he's gone." "Who was that?" she asked. "I don't know. Maybe he was looking for Dad." The next night, the Interhamwe came. There were a dozen of them, mostly teenagers, each brandishing a machete or a spiked club. I heard them before I saw them. They were shouting and laughing. I heard them smash a beer bottle against the side of the house. I ran to my sister. "Sonia, hide in your room and don't come out until I say." I heard a window smash and I crawled into an empty cupboard. One of the militia wrenched on the front door, but it was locked. I heard muffled shouting from outside. "Anyone in here? We were looking for Tutsis and we heard there was some hiding here." I heard banging on the other side of the house and the crash of another window breaking. I thought I could hear the crunch of glass and the sound of somebody crawling through a broken window. Suddenly I was blinded by a massive headache behind my right eye. As soon as it stopped, there was silence outside. I heard confused murmuring and someone said, "Is that a Mzungu?" And an unsteady voice said, "What's wrong with his face?" I heard a crack of gunfire and then shouting. Somebody else exclaimed in terror, "What's in his mouth? What the hell is he doing? Followed by guttural sounds of agony. It sounded like a mountain gorilla was outside tearing people apart. When the noises stopped, I slowly crept out of the cupboard and I looked out the shattered windows. In the distance, I could see a man on foot running for his life down the dusty path to our home. In the front yard was the scattered and dismembered remains of the Inchawama. Body parts were strewn around haphazardly. On the outskirts of the property, I saw the white man from the kitchen. He was facing away from me and he didn't move. He looked the same as before, but now his hands glistened with fresh blood. I heard the cry of a goat and I turned my attention towards the sound. And when I looked back, the man was gone. I broke away from the window to find Sonia. She was shaking in fear under her bed and I told her that the men were gone. She refused to budge until I brought her her teddy bear. The next morning, I told Sonia to stay inside and to keep away from the windows. They had broken all but one, but I cleaned up the glass shards the best that I could. I dragged the dead men off the property and into the nearby pit. I covered them with a thick blanket of banana leaves. They killed one of our cows and set the rest free. I could see them wandering further down the hill, but I was too scared to go that far and fetch them. Our goat was still tied up out back and she complained bitterly. "Where did all the men go?" Sonia asked. "You must have scared them off," I said. "When they found out that you were here, they fled like chickens. I saw the whole thing." "You're teasing me." She rubbed her growling stomach. "Eric, I'm really hungry." I slaughtered the cow and I made a small fire and we ate like kings for the rest of the day. It was far too much for the two of us and we had to waste a lot of it. Sonia asked, "Do you think it was the same men who killed the cows back at the church?" "I think so," I said. "Don't worry about them. We're safe here." Later on, I was cleaning up the kitchen when I felt that sharp pain in my head. I turned around and Mzungu was back. He appeared the same as before. Khaki uniform, blue helmet, grievously wounded, and again, he didn't face me. "It's you again." I trembled and my voice wavered. "You fought off the men. They would have killed us." He remained motionless. "Why are you here? What do you want? Who are you?" I asked a barrage of questions, but without the slightest reaction. "Eric, who are you talking to?" Sonia came up behind me. "It's that Mzungu again. He's..." When I turned back, he was gone. I went back to cleaning and I saw something odd. The French word, "La Revanche," spelled out in ashes on the kitchen counter. I brushed it off and I continued tidying up. The next day, I was listening to the radio while Sonia played in her room. I went numb when I heard the familiar voice of her father. He said, "We shall fight them and we shall defeat them. That is the truth. If they do not pay attention, they will all be decimated. I have remarked it and they are in the minority." He went on in this vein for a while, complaining about the Tutsis, the RPF, and the United Nations. Then he said, "And you people who live near Kadua, go out. You will see an Nkutni house on top of the hill. I think that those who have guns should immediately go to these Nkutni, encircle them and kill them." I was shocked and my blood ran cold. That was our house that he described. I just listened to our father give a bunch of killers directions to our house. There were no Nkutni here, just us. What was he thinking? Is that what my mother warned me about? Within an hour, they started to arrive. Machete-wielding youths were joined by the police and soldiers. They formed a circle around the house and they waited. I heard the dull drone of a jeep approach and stop in our yard. Sitting in the passenger seat, my father raised his arms and stood up above the crowd. Everyone cheered. "Dad! Dad's here!" I heard Sonia cry. She tried to run for the door, but I grabbed a handhold of her shirt and I held her back. "Wait," I said. "We need to play another game. Hide from Dad. He's with the men who killed..." I hesitated. "The cows. He's with the men who killed the cows." He was wearing his finest suit, and when he spoke, a vein popped out of his bald forehead. "Eric, Sonia, come out, my children. Your father wishes to see you." I didn't move and I held Sonia back. "I know you're in there," he continued. "And I know you are not alone. Are they holding you hostage? I heard they put up quite the fight the other day. I hate to think that my home is full of cockroaches." Sonia fought my grip and broke free. "Eric, it's Dad. Let go of me." I lunged for her, but she was far too quick and she ran out of the front door. "Sonia!" my father exclaimed. He leaned over to whisper something to a uniformed man. Sonia ran towards our father with her arms wide open. I yelled, "No!" and then I looked away. She didn't cry out when the machete sliced through her. When I looked back, she was a crumpled, bloodied heap on the ground at my father's feet. The uniformed man held the dripping weapon while my father stood there smiling like a jackal. "Eric, my son, come here. Your mother and sister are waiting for you." I collapsed behind the front door. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I could do nothing but tremble. And then I felt this massive migraine behind my right eye. I heard confusion outside. Someone said, "What the hell is a Mzungu doing here?" Panic screaming followed that seemed to come from all around the house. I heard a rapid burst of gunfire and an exploding grenade shook the house. I saw a spray of blood smash up against our last unbroken window. Somebody banged in the front door and pleaded, "Please, let me in. There's a demon out here." But then his voice gargled like his throat had been crushed and he stopped speaking. I waited an hour after the last terrified scream before I dared look outside. The corpses of the attackers surrounded our home. Body parts were strewn everywhere. The most disturbing sight was that of my father. I found him propped up against his Jeep. His groin was a maroon puddle of blood, and in his mouth I could see his own severed penis. I remember throwing up and sitting on the front step until dark, physically and mentally paralyzed. I was now alone in that big, empty house. I cleaned up the bodies and I dragged them to the same pit where the other corpses were hidden. I looked across every inch of the property for the body of my sister. I wanted to give her a proper burial, but I couldn't find her anywhere. I lost track of time. My daily routine consisted of rationing my food and sitting alone, waiting. Despite my craving to hear another human's voice, I did not listen to the radio again. Eventually, weeks or months later, I was rescued by a group of Nkatni soldiers. Their commander said, "Come with us." He said that he would bring me to a convoy of other refugees and that I was safe. Before leaving, I felt the familiar pain behind my eye. I turned around to take in our home one last time, and in the doorway of our house I saw the Mzungu. Beside him was my sister. She waved at me with one hand while holding her teddy bear with the other. I yanked on the soldier's arm and I demanded him to stop. But when I looked back, the Mzungu and my sister were both gone. Editor's notes. Eric gave his testimony to agents of Medina San Fronteras in August 1994. After this date, I have no further documentation and I have been unable to track his whereabouts. Furthermore, I am unable to pinpoint the identity of the UNA MIR peacekeeper. The man's uniform matches that of a Belgian paratrooper, the blue helmets. Additionally, the description of his injuries, especially to his Achilles tendons, suggested that he may be connected to the group of 10 Belgian peacekeepers who were captured and executed by Houthi extremists. Furthermore, evidence found by prosecutors for the International Criminal Tribunal of Rwanda suggests that Eric's father may have been implicated in this execution.